Welcome everyone to Just Onside. I am your host Ahmed Badger Baghdadi, alongside my ever-present partner Uwais Ahmed. Uwais is like, where's Ayub, man? It's like, how many months has this been now? It's just a two-man show these days. Like, where the hell is he? We need him back.
Just can't get the commitment, can we?
We can't. We really can't. It's like he's the first guy on earth to have a kid. You know what I mean?
It's good to have you back, Badge.
No. I don't know what you're talking about. I've never been away. My head has been on that background every episode. I've been here, mate. I don't know what you're on about.
How you been anyway?
I'm all good, man. I'm all good. Feels lovely to be back. It's such a shame we had to do one in, one out. Back to the championship with Ayub, where he belongs. But yeah, you guys have been holding the fort down well, huh?
Yeah, well, got to. It's been good. But yeah, Ayub's in London for the weekend, so we were trying our best to get him on today. But it's Thursday evening, FPL deadline tomorrow as well. So we definitely want to shoot today. And there's a few interesting storylines, aren't there, Badge, about Champions League draws, transfer stories. I think the transfer deadline ends tonight. Is that right?
Yeah. And I think we'll have a more comprehensive roundup of that on our next one, given it'll be after the deadline. But yeah, certainly some interesting late moves being made. But to kick things off, we've got to talk about the big fixture of the weekend, and that's Arsenal hosting Man United at the Emirates. So we're just going to kick off early. I'm gonna go ahead and say I believe Arsenal are going to win this quite comfortably. And I hate to say that, but I do feel that is going to be the case. And it's only because of the chances that we give away to clubs, the pattern of chances that we've been giving away in our first few games. Sorry, I keep saying we. If you don't know who I am or who I support Manchester United.
I think most of our viewers have gotten to that understanding, Badge.
We've gotten a few shiny new ones since, so I want to make sure, you know what I mean? But yeah, the pattern of chances we've been giving away in our first few games has been shocking. And honestly, if we come up against better opposition, we will concede a lot more goals in our games. That's why I feel like Arsenal are just gonna pick us apart in that sense. Last season, we saw the game at Emirates. It was pretty much last minute winner for Arsenal, but they were knocking on the door the whole way. And that was when we were in decent stead, albeit without Casemiro for that fixture. This time round, we've got too many holes, I feel. And I feel like we're going to get beaten soundly. And I hate that. You know how much I hate to say that, Lewis.
You're always a little pessimistic, I've noticed.
Hey, I'm always optimistic. I predicted United to beat City 2-1 in the FA Cup.
No, but that's because that's because I pressed you for a prediction, and it's very difficult for those words to come out of your mouth. But now that this season there's a bit more expectations, you're tempering those a little bit, I see.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see who he plays in the middle of the park, because Eriksen at home, I like. Away from home, not so much.
What are his options?
That's the problem. I feel like he does not want to go back to McTominay. So I don't know. I don't think he'll play him. I think it will be Eriksen, Fernandes, and Casemiro, which is a bit of a cause for concern again. And I know your points, I'm sure you'll allude to, where you feel like Arsenal haven't shown enough to maybe justify my feelings on this, but it's what I've seen from United so far. But that's me. Over to you, my friend.
I think if you look at both clubs going into this season, Badge, they both expect to be challenging Manchester City for the Premier League title. Arsenal more so because they did it last year. But I think Man United's expectation this year was, I think they would look
so personally.
I think that was the expectation, or the remit, let's say, given to Erik ten Hag. I don't know how that club operates, but I just speak from a fan's perspective. I think, given how they performed, they won the Carabao Cup, they were in the FA Cup final, they got into the Champions League. I think the expectation is definitely to be right up there, and their signings would suggest that they want to obviously take that step forward with Mount, another season of Martinez. Højlund and on at the back. So I think, given that both clubs expect to be right up there at the top, I think you would agree with me that both clubs have got some question marks in the early stages of the season. I agree with you. I think Man United have a few more. I think that's fair. I think Arsenal's questions are different. I think Manchester United, they've not had arguably a good performance so far. Wolves, they struggled. Spurs, that I think in the end they deservedly lost, and to be 2-0 down after 4 minutes at home to Nottingham Forest story tells you, to your point, Badge, you made a good point, that at the moment, the type of chances that they're conceding, you're not going anywhere defending like that. Let's be honest. So they need to rectify that, whether that's shape driven. I just want to ask you that. What is that? Do you think that's a personnel? I mean, it's early doors, right? It's 3 games. But do you think that's personnel? Because they do have some key injuries, right? They've lost Varane now. Sure, they lost, obviously, going into that last game, Mount now as well. Do you think that's a chemistry thing, or is that also personnel and just kind of general shape, or what? What do you think?
He has set up a little differently, and it's the way he's set up is so that it's actually easier to get us on the break now, because teams have way more space to, and it's just Casemiro covering. I don't know. It's very early doors. You could say it's personnel, you could say system, but then there's silly like individual, like just lapses in concentration. Like a guy who I praise to the hills last season, Lisandro Martinez, he's made a few errors this season as well. Like there was one against Nottingham Forest where it was the Gibbs White chance where he hit it onto his own player, but the build up to that, one of their midfielders just strolled past Rashford and Martinez. Martinez had come out of position, but he's ran past both of them, and neither of those two had even had the intent to get back. And it's things like that that are a giant cause for concern. A lot, even if you think about the goal Pape Sarr scored for Spurs against United, Kulusevski just strolled to the byline, absolutely no pressure on him whatsoever. And if we do that against Arsenal, Saka, Martinelli, with Odegaard getting in there and Nketiah, is going to be lights. It's going to be an early knockout. So that's where my issues lie there. And we haven't seen Højlund yet, and worryingly for United, we've not seen any training pics because we know how much they love to plug their new signings in their training pics. Not seen anything like that. So, it's a tricky one, man. It's a tricky one.
I think even though this is game week for both teams, Arsenal obviously have 7 points. They would have probably expected to pick up 9, or at least once you've got 6 in the bag and you're home 2-1 against Fulham, you've got to see that out against 10 men. So they've dropped points, and obviously United have already lost away to Spurs, although Spurs obviously have had a really good start to their campaign. I agree with you in terms of, I think if Arsenal play like they can at home, and with United, some of their struggles, plus to your point you mentioned with Shaw out, with Varane out, Mount obviously will be missing. Højlund will definitely not start the game, whether he's on the bench is a different matter. So they've definitely got some question marks, haven't they? You would argue Arsenal probably a little bit more settled, but they have their own issues, Badge. And at the moment, the big question mark right now around Arsenal is, and this is not a criticism, it's just an observation, but ultimately Arteta currently is developing another different style of play, a lot more patient, a lot more controlled, and that's fine. But I think you saw the early signs of how they've paid for that in some of their early games, and you can get away with it to some extent, and it might pay off later on in the season when players are a little bit more understanding of what's required and how to go about this. But it is a style that takes some time, and you saw that it cost them a goal early doors against Fulham with the Saka giveaway in the first couple of minutes. So I think in the end.
Sorry, man. It's very distracting. This light's flickering, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's fine. What's the issue?
It's like I'm in a horror movie. What's going on?
It might be representative of United's title challenge right now.
I'll be honest with you. I thought it was my eyes. I was like, "What is going on?" But it's this light. Yeah. Sorry, mate. Sorry. Apologize. Let me get in there. Oh no, that was it. Let me move back. Go on, anyway. Sorry.
No. I was just saying, and they've got their own question marks, haven't they? And one of the big question marks has been Havertz. In terms of how he started his Arsenal career. Yeah, I think there are some, but I think, look, there are some reasons that you can explain some of his performances a lack of. They started off with Timber on the left-hand side. He got injured in the first game, which was unfortunate for him. That was a tough injury, and he's going to be out for the season. Zinchenko hasn't started a game for them. So that kind of left-hand side, he'll probably be better with Jesus probably up front, who tends to lean towards the left-hand side and drift over there. So I think with Arteta kind of putting an emphasis on building this new way of playing with Partey playing from right back, there's a lot of Arsenal fans who are quite critical right now because they can see that clearly cost them. And you can't win games, Badge, if you keep conceding in the first minute at home.
No.
That's not a recipe. And I gave the statistics last week. 4 clean sheets last season out of the 14 were at home. So that's 15 games at home where they didn't keep a clean sheet. And obviously last year, United obviously scored a wonderful goal from Rashford, and the Martinez goal, I think it was from the set piece. So I think in the end, the big thing will be, will Arsenal revert back to their normal way of playing? And what I mean by that is the normal relationships established: Saliba, Gabriel, Ben White at right back. Would he go for a double pivot of Declan Rice and Thomas Partey? And it'll just be interesting how he sees things, because if he does go for that double pivot, you would think Havertz will be the player to make way, right? With just Odegaard in front.
Totally.
So so it'll be interesting. I think given the way Arteta likes to present himself, I think he'll continue to play the way he's been playing, with Partey at right back coming into midfield. I would imagine that's the way he'll go. The big question mark will then be...
He's just trying to be Pep Light, isn't he? Let's be honest. That's what it's. He's Pep Light, and
Well, look,
he's trying to implement Pep's ways in this 2-5-3. I mean, you had an actual left back in Tierney, you got rid of him. Fair enough, you got a style of play, but like some of the moves he's doing, Kiwior, tall, lanky, left-footed centre back at left back, Partey at right back. I wish Partey starts against Rashford. I'm looking forward to that if that happens. But I feel like he's last season you were a bit reckless at home, but I love that attacking style like they had, where they were like hammering teams into submission, basically. That's what made Arsenal. I don't want them to become this City 2.0 and just not a very good version of them either. So
yeah,
I don't know what you feel on that. But...
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think that's the question mark, isn't it? When Arsenal are playing a very deliberate style of football. I remember when we discussed Pep Guardiola's quote unquote greatness, and you said you're not a huge fan, in a sense of how, just a personal preference, right? You're not a huge fan of the style of play that his teams play. I don't think you were arguing against his greatness, and when Arsenal are trying this deliberate, not cautious, but a very controlled, methodical way of playing football, it's fine if you're a Man City who have developed this for years and have got elite world-class footballers everywhere and a world-class striker who can put those chances away. It's fine because they've had years of experience of playing that way. I think Arsenal are trying to implement that, and that's fine. Let's see how they go. It does take time to build these new styles in, but it's at the expense of what you just said, that kind of youthful exuberance. If you remember the famous goal against Liverpool, right? First minute, bang, pass into Odegaard, bang to Martinelli inside Arnold. And it was this kind of young, vertical, fast, free-flowing football where it's like they were hitting teams with pace. You've got Saka, Martinelli, and I guess for large parts of last season when he wasn't injured, Jesus. So there was a huge amount of kind of legs and energy. Now it's very much kind of cautious, controlled, and he's fractured some of the relationships in the team. Ben White doesn't now play in those kind of lines with Saka. You don't have, obviously, Xhaka now with Martinelli. He's kind of left on his own. You don't have Zinchenko. It'll be interesting to see who he starts at left back. So the fact that he's disrupted all these different relationships, Saliba not playing with Gabriel when he played the whole season, bar those last few games with the injury, with Saliba, and you'd agree, right? It takes centre backs, is partnerships, is chemistry. It's about playing together. Sure. So that'll be the big question mark for me from Arsenal. Nketiah will play up front. I think that's pretty much clear. He's been handed his first England call up, I think, this afternoon. So he'll be pretty buzzing, and he deserves it. I think he's the England call up is a different matter, but he definitely deserves to start right now. He scored in a couple of key games. Should have scored against Palace with a couple of opportunities. So it'll be interesting just to see how Arsenal set up. I think it'll be very similar to the last few games, and then it's a case of, well, can they offset kind of United want to play counter-attacking, so it'll be interesting just to see how Arsenal offset that. I think both teams will score. I do think both teams will score, but I think early on game week 4, a defeat for either team, I think, will raise some question marks. And I think that's simply because Arsenal have dropped points against Fulham. United haven't been great this season so far, performances wise.
Who have you got? Who have you got after us?
I've not looked at the fixtures, to be fair.
What?
Hey, listen, I don't take
Hey,
any.
I've got the boys stumped. I
No,
love it.
I don't take any game for granted. So
It's
that's the
one on the
that's
board
the.
for me.
No, absolutely. I don't know. I'll just have a
Well, we've
quick.
got Brighton next, so if we lose against you guys and then get Brighton, ooh,
Yeah,
it's gonna be twitchy.
yeah, but I think this is what I mean about the. I think it's after the international break, right? So just having a quick check now. Anyway, you'll have to check. I'm not so sure, but yeah, I mean, look. At the end of the day, it's each game as it comes, right? And they want to go into the international break with a win, both teams, and obviously they can't do that. But like I said, I just think early doors, given some of the question marks, I think there will be a little bit of a post-mortem and early season inquiry, depending on which team loses, as to what their hopes and aspirations are. If United lose, that's 2 defeats in 4 already. Yes, against good teams, Spurs and Arsenal, but I think I imagine both teams might take a point. I know Arsenal might feel confident at home, but I do think United have the tools to hurt them. Like you said, Rashford, Fernandes, and they'll probably end up playing on the counter a little bit more, United, so probably suit them. Can I trouble you for a prediction?
Yeah, 2, maybe 3-0.
Oh no, Manchester United will score. Arsenal will find a way to concede. Um, um, but I'm going to go for a score draw. I'm going to go for a 2-2 entertaining draw. I agree with you. I think United do have some issues. I just wonder whether Arsenal, like I said, you would imagine. I think Manchester United, like you said, would prefer Arsenal to play a very controlled game. I think they would fear the Arsenal of last season, where it's like, okay, rampant, they're gonna run at us, gaps everywhere, running through us, pace, running behind us, in between the lines. I think United will prefer a slow, methodical team that plays or wants to play in front of them. So,
Matchups. Not looking forward to Dalot versus Saka. I feel like that is. I don't see that ending well, to be honest, for Dalot, unfortunately. I think Wan-Bissaka will be fine on his side. He's usually very good like that. Middle of the park, we're gonna get overrun.
I'm
gonna get overrun.
Yeah, a lot depends on how Arsenal set up. Like I said, I think if they try and play between the lines, a lot, like I said, very interesting to see Arsenal's lineup. Very interesting to see United's lineup. Maybe in 24 hours' time, Scott McTominay might not be a Manchester United player. It seems like they're going to hold on to him. And you would think, given, there's some talk about Amrabat, and let's see. But Amrabat, I imagine, is not going to be available on Sunday. So
no. Whoever they sign,
yeah. So they've got a. You would imagine this is a McTominay game, right? You would probably put him in the middle of the park with Casemiro.
Normally, yes, but he may not play him.
Yeah.
Be interesting. Let's see how it pans out. Let's see how it pans out. But moving on to FPL. So we've got I'm sure all of you know by now, second in the world. What season was that?
I think, was it 16, 17, I think?
16, 17. And it was a bit of a cruel heartbreak, wasn't it?
We have gone through this, Badge. Do we have to relive it? You're not very much of a friend, are you?
No, fair. As I look at our just onside table, just give me 1 second. Let me bring that up. Just onside. Wow.
Well, I can tell you your points, Badge. If
you and I aren't doing too hot, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a difficult start. You've got 146 points.
Oh, you don't need to say it.
Well, I've not got many more. Don't worry, 159. So I'm only 13 points ahead of you. I think I'm 38th. I'm not so sure what your position.
Yeah, we don't need to go into that. That's fine. Just know.
Are you on page 2, Badge? That's the main question. No, absolutely. I do want to just go through it, Badge, if I may, just very quickly, the FPL
Of course,
stuff.
mate. Of course.
So last week, game week 3, we started, discussing this, and we were a bit late. We discussed it on Friday, and anyway, I gave 3 picks, so it's only fair. I should hold my hands up when I get some wrong as well. So I suggested that Nicholas Jackson was definitely the one player to have. He did score against Luton, so I'm going to claim that one. That was 1 for 1. I did also suggest that Bournemouth, Spurs, both teams would score. Based on their recent history, based on how they started the season, both clubs. And yes, Spurs won 2-0. So I got that one wrong. Bournemouth did have some opportunities. I did think that neither team would have a clean sheet. But there you go, 2-0. So I got one wrong there for sure. And the kind of slight wild card, and I think you did allude to this offline, Badge, that this was way out on a limb with Amdouni at Burnley. He had a good opportunity, to be honest with you.
Decent chance.
It was a decent chance. I did fancy him to get something. Even if he got an assist, I would have claimed it. But I still think Burnley will be fine, but a troubling start for them. And Villa, great game, especially for Matty Cash from an FPL perspective.
I know.
Couple of goals, Badge could have had an hat-trick. So that would have been interesting for a defender to get a hat-trick. Matty Cash probably not one of your bets if you were going to predict a defender getting a hat trick, but he came very close. But look, what did happen last week? So, a gentleman by the name of Ismail Waggett, who has joined our Just Onside league, he used this.
Are we name dropping? Is that what we're doing?
Well, which means that, Badge, if you have a good week, you'll get name drop as well. Whether you'll be present on the podcast is a different matter.
Yeah. I'm always here. It's Ayub.
It's Ayub, yeah, absolutely. But he used his wild card. He's got a team name, Caponias. He used the wild card to great effect. He's on 217 points now, Badge. He got a game week 3 haul of 80 points. He kept Sterling captain, which was a good choice, wasn't it? I mean, yes,
that's a hell of a choice. I'm not gonna lie, that's a hell of a choice.
Yeah, you might say predictable Luton, and I do think a lot of teams will be fielding captains against Luton. They have conceded a fair few this season, but he got 38 points with Sterling captain, but he also had Moussa Diaby for 12 after his goal and assist for the Matty Cash goal against Burnley, and Saka as well, just to name a few. So he got good points haul. He's 4,334th in the world, Badge, which is a really good achievement so far.
That's quality.
Yeah, good luck to him. So I'm 1 for 3, I would say. I think that's fair to say. So I'm going to give a few more picks, Badge, and I'm sure, again, you'll hold me to it. So let's see what yours... And give me your thoughts. So game week 4 this weekend obviously kicks off tomorrow with Luton and West Ham. Now, game week 4, Badge, is normally... I don't know what your strategy is. Cue sniggering, but I don't know what your strategy is. But normally game week 4 or the international break is when most FPL managers tend to evaluate their teams. They've got some data on trends, like things like how are Brentford performing now with Ivan Toney out? Like are they still scoring goals? And they've got, I think, 6 goals in 3 games. So Wissa's doing really well for them, and Burmo Shard scored a great goal the other day. So it's about just understanding trends, who's playing where, who's doing well, which teams are a little bit more attacking, which teams, like Spurs have kept a couple of clean sheets in a row against Manchester United and Bournemouth. So it's just certain things you start to look at, and then it's surgery time with the wild card. So if you are going to use your wild card after game week 4, you should prioritize points in game week 4 rather than rolling any transfers over, because you're going to probably use your wild card during the international break anyway, right? So based on that, I would suggest make the changes you want to make based on getting good points this week. So the one dead cert for me this week, Badge, is, and again, this might become a recurring theme throughout the season, but I'm going to go with Mikel Antonio of West Ham. He's got Luton away. He scored a cracking goal against Chelsea. You'll remember that.
Great goal.
Finish. And then a very similar finish against Brighton. And the way he turned, I think it was Webster with the shimmy. Kind of a drop of a shoulder on his left, went on his right, and bang. And what I really liked about both finishes, Badge, and I'm sure you did as well, was instinctive. Just bang, bottom corner, not thinking it too much. So I do fancy him to get something. It was between him and Bowen, but I'm going to go with Antonio because just physicality. He's leading the line really well. Only worry for me with him, he's averaging about 77 minutes. Across the 3 games, and I'd really want him to get the full 99 against Luton because he could do some damage. I'm sure you agree.
It's Luton's first home game though in the Prem. That stadium will be rocking, as small as it is.
They've conceded 7 goals in 2 games.
Yeah, but I mean that's away from home, isn't it?
That's away from home.
Kenilworth Road might be a fortress.
Kenilworth might be for. Let's wait and see. You're right. It's going to be bouncing. The Sky Sports cameras will be there, right? So a big day for them. And listen, it's a huge event in the Premier League. Let's be honest. If you're a Luton Town fan, amazing. So 7 goals in 2 games. I fancy West Ham to win, Badge. I really do. And I think Antonio will continue his little bit of form. So let's see how that goes. So that's my dead cert, guaranteed or player to have for this week.
Oh wow!
In
terms, guys, he's stitching you up. I'm telling you.
The player I'm going to go for as a slight wild card. It was between. I mean, I want to give a shout out to Malo Gusto of Chelsea. That would be an interesting choice right now in terms of value. 4.1 million Badge, FPL price.
He's gone up 0.1 on him.
Yeah, 4.1 million. He's selected by 10.3% of all teams now. Obviously, that's been on the increase. I got him in quite early once Reece James went down with the injury against Liverpool because I saw that as a like-for-like switch. So he's come good. He's obviously got a couple of assists for the Sterling goals, I believe it was, against Luton with a 14 points haul. They bought him last January, if you remember, from Lyon for 26 million. So he was seen probably as cover for James, but 26 million. Lyon held on to him till the summer, and now Chelsea play. It'll be interesting because I think Reece James is out for a little bit of time, but the value into the back line at Chelsea with good fixtures to come is too good. But he's not my wild card. I'm going to go for Pablo Porro of Spurs, away to Burnley. Spurs
Pedro Porro.
Pedro Porro, I should say. Apologies.
Pablo's his cousin.
his Colombian cousin. No, Pedro Porro, indeed. I'm going to go for him because I think Spurs kept a couple of clean sheets. Yes, they were probably a little lucky against United. United did have some opportunities through Rashford, Fernandes, and Anthony. But Cash scored a couple of goals from right back against them for Villa. I like Porro. He's not done anything this season.
He's on set pieces as well, if I'm not mistaken. He lacks a shot as well. So.
Well, this is it. He's not done anything this season in terms of FPL contributions. That's why I see him as a bit of a wild card. But I think Spurs, they're feeling good about themselves. I think they like playing away from home. I don't think they'll mind that too much. They're free flowing at the moment. Madison, arguably August player of the month, but playing incredibly well. I just fancy him, to your point, set pieces. He played 90 minutes against Bournemouth. I just fancy him again. Things were coming down that side for Villa. I do fancy him to contribute, whether it's with a goal and assist. So that's my wild card. And the only one I would say in terms of the ones to avoid would be a Liverpool clean sheet at home to Villa. It's not totally out of the, let's say, wild card realm, but Villa have scored in the last 3 league games against Liverpool, scoring once each time. Liverpool without Van Dijk, they may miss Van Dijk for future games as well. But with an unsettled back line, with Villa scoring, obviously, in all of their games, they scored 1 against Newcastle when they got tonked at St. James's, 5-1. But they put 4 past Everton, 3 past Burnley. I do fancy them to score. They've got a lively front line, great manager, good team. Promising much this season. Let's see where they get to, but I do fancy them to go to Anfield and score. So if you've got a Liverpool defender,
agreed,
with that back line, with Villa's front line, I think I don't see a clean sheet there. So that's my pick. So I'm going to go with Antonio, Porro, and Liverpool not to keep a clean sheet at home to Aston Villa. Let's see how we get on. What do you think?
Lovely, jubbly. No, I'm intrigued by this Luton West Ham fixture. I really am. Because it's their first home game. I feel like the crowd's going to be buzzing. And I think it's just made for one of them wins. Luton wins. And it'll probably be the only one of the season.
Well, Ayub has said that they will not win a Premier League.
They will not win the game. Never mind then.
But I think all that rocking and the place is going to be incredible. Atmosphere is going to last all of 12 minutes, Badge.
Potentially. Yeah, you're not wrong there. I think Brentford, Bournemouth. I'm on a big Mbeumo hype at the minute.
Yep.
I think he's such a good player. He's one of their main goal getters. Wissa has been chipping in as well, but Mbeumo. Yep. He's on their penalties now as well.
Yeah, Wissa's got the most FPL points as a striker.
Okay. That's good. And Sharda, like you said, scored a terrific goal on the weekend. And Mbeumo, I'm sure a lot of people have, to be fair. I'm trying to think who would be a wild card here. And it's tough, given the fixtures.
Yeah, some of the fixtures were difficult. There's another great game as well, Brighton, Newcastle. Not sure if either keeps Brighton will want to bounce back, won't they? After the West
Yeah,
Ham,
of course, after that shock loss.
and even Newcastle, to be fair. Yeah.
I think a lot of people may be flocking to Haaland as captain. Fulham at home.
Will he be your captain?
We'll see. Uh,
That's a yes.
no, I'm not sure, Potentially. Chelsea Forest will be an interesting game. I want to see how they handle the big man Awani up top. He's been in sensational form, and I could see it continuing here at Chelsea.
Well, he scored at the Emirates. He scored at Old Trafford.
Yeah.
And now he goes to another big ground. And
Exactly.
what he showed at Old Trafford, a turn of pace, which I wasn't sure that he had.
Yeah, that surprised me as well, but maybe because it was early doors. He still had that burst
Still
of
had the
energy.
energy, yeah.
Yeah. But no, he's been terrific. I think the fact that I doubt many people had him just for the fact that the games that they've had so far have been quite tricky. Crystal Palace, Wolves. Now Palace, I wouldn't say are ever like formidable goal scorers, but just for this game week, potentially you might get points out of Eze or Edward, because Edward's been getting in great positions. So I do feel like there's potentially goals there, but you never know.
Yeah, but Wolves narrowly lost to United. They beat Everton last week away from home. It's a bit of a it's a team that's probably going to lose a few, but also pick up some good results along the way. Because, but yeah,
were they in your bottom three, by the way?
they were, yes.
Yeah, they were. I'm making sure this is not a jab.
I may revisit that.
But yeah, I think no surprises, to be honest. Who are you saying for captain?
I don't want to say because
just lead them astray, man. Lead them astray. We got catching up to do, bro. With mid-table
I was gonna say let's just give him but captain. The smart choice would be Haaland. He should have scored against Newcastle. He did score against Sheffield United. He should have had a hat-trick there, let's be honest. And he's gonna get another whole load of chances, and especially if Palhinha moves on, because he's their best player. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. But
interesting.
Haaland would be the bet.
Yeah, I think Alvarez, if you're really looking for an alternative, potentially brings you some value there. But Haaland is definitely going to be the safe bet here.
The only thing I would say on Haaland, Badge, I don't know if you agree, but he missed a penalty now. Mm-hmm. I just wonder whether he's still on penalty duties. I think
he will be. Yeah. I think he will be. It'd take a few to take him off him, I feel. But yeah, that is the FPL roundup. So before we go, I think it's only fair to touch on this Champions League draw. That's just took place. Newcastle, what a draw. And I'm sure like most fans of teams that are in the Champions League would dread a group like that. But I think for them, they'll be absolutely... Bro, you're swearing at me. You just did this.
Absolutely not. No, go on, carry on.
I know I've been away for a while, but...
go on.
But yeah, I feel like Newcastle's fans are going to be absolutely buzzing with that draw. Because what the away days, just think of the away days alone. It's incredible. Paris, Milan, and how have I blanked on the last one?
Milan, Dortmund.
Yeah. Amazing away days. That group is definitely the group of death there, because any one of those teams could get through that. It'd be interesting to see how Newcastle deal with utilizing their squad as opposed to their strongest 11 week in, week out. So it's going to be one to watch for sure. I think for the rest of the English teams, couple of tricky ties maybe for United and Arsenal, but City have a doddle. They could top that group with their reserves, to be honest. And that is no disrespect to the other teams, albeit a little disrespect. But yeah, that's I feel it's just all about that Newcastle group for me.
What's your, before I just comment on that Newcastle one, what's your thoughts on Manchester United's group? So you've got Bayern Munich, Manchester United, FC Copenhagen, and Galatasaray. You feel confident that United should be able to get through that group, I guess, alongside Bayern Munich?
Yeah, I mean, Harry Kane's going to show us why we should have signed him. Then there's going to be the trip to hell, aka Galatasaray. I'm sure we'll find ways to mess that up. It just sounds like one of those away days. No, but honestly, Galatasaray, Copenhagen should be beating both those teams, even though Galatasaray have a few quality players. Zaha's moved there recently as well. Dries Mertens, Marek, Icardi. We got some good players there, but realistically, we should beat both those sides. It's just the Bayern trips. And it'd be interesting to see how the fixtures line up.
Yeah.
And whether I'd rather get Bayern out the way, really, first, so that we play them last.
Is it normally if the team you play first, you play fifth?
You play last. Yeah, it's fifth.
Fifth, and then the team you play second, you play sixth.
It just goes in the reverse order.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I always used to, for some reason, I used to think the team you play first, you play fifth. The team you play second, you play sixth, and the team you play third, you play fourth in a back-to-back, so to speak. But maybe I'm wrong. But it's fine. I wasn't.
I don't know, actually. You might be right. No. I don't think so.
We'll see how the fixtures turn out.
But yeah, how do you feel about Arsenal's group?
Yeah, I think when you look at it, PSV, Sevilla, and Lens, I think it was, and Arsenal should feel confident about getting through.
Sounds like a doddle, to be honest.
Yeah, there's nothing a doddle badge. It's the Premier European. It's the Premier European competition.
And I say this because PSV are about to lose two of their key central midfielders. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but Sangare is going to Forest, it seems, and Bakayoko is off to. I just shared this with someone on WhatsApp. Who was it? Bakayoko's off to someone.
Yeah,
Brentford.
Brentford, yeah. Yeah, I think Arsenal will feel confident. And I think I know this sounds weird, but I think the way that Arteta's trying to get them to play probably might help them a little bit in Champions League to some extent, but you still feel it'll be just interesting to see how Arsenal develop. Yes, they'll fancy that group to get through it, whether as winners, Sevilla, very unusual team, yes, doing incredibly well in the Europa League. Obviously, always starting in the Champions League, ending up in the Europa League, finishing third, and then normally winning that competition. But so Sevilla will be a hard, tough nut to crack.
I know in the Champions League. If this was Europa League, I'd say you best be
but you are playing the same team, and they beat United, obviously.
The mentality is different.
Is it? Okay.
The mentality is different.
No, but let's see. But yeah, they'll feel confident. But coming back to Man United, yeah, I do fancy them to get through. You're right. This comes down to the Galatasaray. You'd think Copenhagen would struggle, but you never know with some of these teams. But Bayern and United should feel confident to get through. Very interesting to see how Manchester United fare against Bayern Munich and vice versa. It's good. It'll just be kind of fascinating to see Newcastle though. Incredible trips to Paris, trips to Germany, trips to Milan. Very interesting.
Finger slipped.
Very interesting to see how they cope, Badge. But this is what you get into the competition for, right? You take the draw that you get. They were obviously in pot 4. They were the toughest pot 4 team. So they were always going to be given a tough draw, right? This is probably one of the toughest that they could have got. But I don't think any of those teams will be fancying coming up to St. James's on a Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and it should make for incredible games, no doubt. The TV cameras will be there covering all of that. So I don't know. I couldn't pick it. They probably, I don't know. You could probably make a case for them. Maybe a second favourites behind PSG. You could make a case, but you would imagine Dortmund losing Bellingham. Let's see how they fare. But you still fancy Paris.
Milan got to semi-finals, so you can drop the disrespect right there, mate.
It's not disrespect. I mean, I just think I think Newcastle have enough to feel confident that they could sneak through that group. But you're right. It'll just be interesting to see how they cope with the squad and with the rotation and Eddie Howe, having to manage that. They're a team that plays with energy, that plays with a lot of running. You saw some of that, let's say in the last 15, 20 minutes against Liverpool. They just, I want to say ran out of steam, but they didn't have the same energy and verve that they did in the first 70 odd minutes. So it'll just be interesting just to see how they cope. But listen, that goes for Arsenal, that goes for Manchester United. They are relatively new teams, let's say, shall I say, into Champions League. Not so much United, but Arsenal for sure. Not so much Manchester United, as I said, than Arsenal. But fascinating. But this is why you get into the competition, to play the big teams, to play the best teams, and try and make it through. And then once you're through, you get a dream tie. So let's see.
Wait, I'm just checking. What did Liverpool get?
Really? That's what?
Yes.
That's what we're doing, Badge.
Yes. that Europa League admin needs a pay rise on Twitter. I'm not calling it X, on Twitter. What a man.
You're a disgrace badge.
Proudly so, proudly so. Right, and that wraps up this episode or this installment of Just Onside. Remember, guys, to like, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Hit the bell for notification for our next ep, where I'm hoping Ayub finally turns up and his 2 months long hiatus is over. I'm sick of it. These 2-man shows. We need the gang back. But thank you for joining us, Uwais. Thank you for your FPL tips, even though you're trying to sabotage everyone.
Michael Antonio, 2 words.
If you don't follow our Twitter yet, also go ahead and follow at Just Onside Pod, I believe. So go ahead and follow us on there. And that is it. And we will join you, you will join us on the next episode of Just Onside. And in the meantime, it's been a long time. Don't stray.